Hogstye.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Hogsty. It is I, Alex, your host. We are in the bye-week spectacular between the championship and the Super Bowl.
This
So
isn't the real bye-week
no,
spectacular.
it's not. It used to be Pro Bowl weekend, and I missed that. Like, this was moving the Pro Bowl to not be this weekend was a stupid idea.
No, the
whenever-
bye-week spectacular was always Washington's bye week.
I know.
You're ruining the trademarks, for this thing we filed on it.
Well, trademark law is something we're all experts in now. Thank you, Washington Football
Yeah, really.
Commanders.
I've spent more time looking at trademark logs than anybody
Yeah.
who's not an IP lawyer should have to do.
Yeah, right. And people who are not lawyers at all in DC, everyone's now a trademark expert.
Yep.
That was, of course, Steve. We got Dave. Steve, who I guess we should call Steve the chief hater of Chase Young.
I don't hate the man. I'm just honest.
Steve did his once a week, random Twitter post that he likes to just hop on and do.
I can throw some grenades and then walk away.
Yeah, and you'll throw a grenade, I'll throw a grenade out there every once in a while that gets some traction. That was one of your better traction posts. Steve posted a Chase Young video, and Young was asked about his time in DC, and all you did was post his stats. You didn't really say anything negative or positive. I think you did say DC will realize they were better off moving on from him.
Yes.
And that's the worst of what you said.
Right.
And, you're right. I'm going to say right off the bat, you were right. 500-something people liked the post and agreed with you. But as is Twitter's nature, the anger is what gets a response. It's not, yes, you are a genius. People don't ever say that on Twitter.
Well, let's also be honest. The people that called you a hater, Steve, you're right. They're right. You're a hater. I'm a hater. Alex is a hater. We hate the fact that the number 2 overall pick was not a game-changing, quote-unquote, generational talent, like your Nick Boses of the world, and he did not perform. He was either injured, or when he played, he just seemed to kind of float around there for a little bit, like you saw him do in the NFC Championship game against Detroit. Just kind of hit the blocker and just kind of float there.
You just see him lollygagging behind.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. And I never bought him from day one, like some people did. A lot of people did, but some people didn't. And what I posted specifically, his stats.
Right.
So let's review, shall we?
Sure.
9 regular season games for 49ers, 10 combined tackles, not even solo tackles, 2.5 sacks. And then in 2 playoff games, 6 combined tackles, no sacks.
I mean, look, those are really good numbers for your 4th linebacker or 4th defensive end.
Right. But this guy is a number 2 overall pick. That was right. The point. I don't know. I didn't realize that this got so much traction, like that. But
yeah. Well, you don't go back and check.
No.
And
really.
you don't get the prompts like I do on your phone.
No, I turned them off, so I don't get them.
Yeah. Steve posted that. And my phone was just like, ba-dum.
Sorry about that.
Well, between that post and today, I see just how sensitive and overreactionary this fan base can be.
I don't know what you're talking about,
insane.
Dave. What do you mean? What happened today?
Oh my goodness!
What did happen today?
Yes, let's recap the Washington Commanders coaching search. Because it has not been a good 48 hours, let's say, for us. On a Wednesday, it's been 48 hours. First, let's start with the crazy story of Ben Johnson. On Tuesday, Josh Harris and Mitch Rails, and I don't know if the GM's in at the Senior Bowl right now, so I don't think he was going. But all the senior guys hopped on a plane. They're flying up to Detroit to interview the guy who everyone knows was the team's favorite. And I know now they're backtracking all this, but no, we all knew this was the favorite guy that they wanted to be the head coach, Ben Johnson, and mid-air, mind you, they get a phone call from Ben Johnson saying he is withdrawing his name from consideration.
Whoops.
Whoops, indeed.
Yep.
Did
Now,
you say mid-air? They were in air to go
yep,
see him?
they were in the air when he withdrew his name.
What'd they do? Turn around and go home then?
No, because they were also interviewing the defensive coordinator.
Oh, okay.
So, cover everything, I think.
That's kind of like getting stood up at your hot date, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's
much.
like if you're going to prom and you're standing at the door with your corsage in hand.
And you see
she's
her driving away with someone else down the
Yeah.
street?
Yeah, and her dad's just looking at you like a space alien.
Yeah, you loser.
Yeah. There's rain too, right? There's got to be rain in that.
There's got to be a teen angst movie about that somewhere, right?
Oh,
I'm sure there is.
I just wrote it.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, that's it.
Totally original concept. Teen angst movie. Yeah. So first off, we've all been on job interviews. Have you ever I had to bail on one once because I was sick. I couldn't imagine bailing on an interview en route, or much less the people coming to interview you are en route. That's insane.
Yeah, but our perspective is not the perspective of somebody making millions of dollars to interview for one of 32 jobs. I mean, a guy like that, it doesn't matter if he goes F you, at all. We wouldn't do that, but we're normal in quote normal careers.
Right.
He's not. That's a different story.
Right.
I mean,
I would have gone through the interview anyway. I mean, it would have been the decent thing to do, but it doesn't surprise me at all.
To me, the fact that it comes out now doesn't help his reputation in the future when he's finally.
I don't think it matters a single bit to his reputation.
You don't think so? You don't think
No.
that people will look and say, why is he backing out of interviews this way?
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
Well, I mean, with it being 2 years in a row, he's basically done that. There might be a little bit of something, but for what he offers in terms of coaching, especially offensively and stuff like that, I think he'll always still get that interest no matter what.
Yep.
So, regardless.
Maybe so.
The NFL is full of this kind of stuff. And if you have enough talent, you can do anything. There's been people who've literally killed people who stayed in the NFL. Remember that Patriots receiver? What was his name? I mean, he killed somebody in a car accident and still played.
Well, after he got out of jail, yes.
And they gave him I mean, there's, look at Tyreek Hill. Nobody blinked an eye about Tyreek Hill. Nobody blinked an eye about Deshaun Watson. Well, they did blink an eye. That's not fair. But the Browns.
Tyreek Hill, you're more right. No one really seemed to care about what he did.
I mean, look at Greg Hardy from the Panthers.
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as he threw his girlfriend on all the guns, and
there you go.
I think yeah. So it's like.
I mean, so the fact that Ben Johnson may have been a jerk to a couple teams about interviews, that won't even register on the Richter scale.
Right.
But I do think there's a little difference when you're talking about head coaches versus players, just because you see the head coach as that team leader and management. You know what I mean?
I think it also matter a lot less because he's not going anywhere. He just decided to stay.
Yeah. Sure.
That also matters more too.
Yeah, but obviously, why wouldn't you just have made that decision? Making that decision that late in the game is a bit surprising too.
He's not on a schedule. Who says he has to? Washington should have had a better plan.
Sure.
And by the way, we all told you guys out there that don't get too hooked on Ben Johnson. We told you that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, the guy I wanted them to interview, they didn't even bother interviewing.
Who's that?
The former OC from Seattle who just took the OC job in Chicago, Waldron.
Oh, Slowick.
Oh.
No.
Slowick was with the Texans.
Slowick was with the Texans. Yeah. And he's out of the running too now because he just got a new contract from Houston.
Hey, have the Twitter Illuminati talked about Mike Vrabel at all?
Oh, a little here and there.
I wonder why Washington isn't interested in Mike Vrabel.
So the group think is Mike Vrabel wants head coach and kind of GM power.
Why would he think he could get that?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but that seems.
Why would anybody think that?
Theory. Yeah, I understand why he might want it.
But they have no evidence of that whatsoever. That's
right.
just like wild Twitter.
Well, that's the speculation for why he was let go of in Tennessee, is that he was wanting player control as well.
Well, I mean, you look at you look how they handled the AJ Brown trade.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd want control too, because that GM out there really did not do a very good job.
Fair enough. Yeah.
That was their previous GM, though, I think, right? Like they.
I can't.
Because they
just
remember. Got a new guy in.
Okay, but let's backtrack here. So, because I went through the effort late in the day today of pulling a slide, let's just summarize the coaching situation so people can better understand.
We should also talk about the coach that was hired today, which was McDonald, getting hired by Seattle.
I was going to get to that. So here's the coaches have been hired. This is from Adam Schefter, but you can piece this together. Chargers, Jim Harbaugh. Raiders, Antonio Pierce. Patriots, Jared Mayo. Titans, Brian Callahan. Panthers, Dave Canales. Falcons, Raheem Morris. Seahawks, Mike McDonald. Leaving, guess who? Washington is the only team in the NFL without a head coach.
Yep.
And then Schefter also reported on the general managers. Raiders, Tom Telesco. Washington, Adam Peters. Panthers, Dan Morgan. Chargers, Joe Hortz. And the Patriots are left as the only team without a GM. So that is the current status as of Wednesday night.
Well, the Patriots haven't had a real GM since
before Belichick.
Yeah. They had guys with the title, kind of, but that was it. So Washington's last. If you're playing a game of musical chairs, Washington's in last place right now.
Yeah, they're the one left standing without a chair. They apparently did not have a good plan.
Apparently so. So the Mike McDonald thing is also equally wild in that after 2 days ago, or for when people were listening, 2 days ago on Tuesday, Washington was quickly trying to get Mike McDonald to be their guy. And he was on his way to Seattle. They were calling him to see if he would come back to.
Would you turn your plane around, please?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know if it's his plane. I think it's Seattle's plane.
I think it was Schefter made a mention to it. One of the reasons why McDonald chose Seattle over Washington was the fact that Washington was offered a 4-year contract. Seattle said 6. And McDonald gave them the opportunity, apparently, to say, come to 6, but they weren't willing to do a 6-year deal. So he went out to Seattle, and then that was it.
That is interesting, honestly.
Well, okay. I mean, that's reasonable, right? But still, it doesn't appear that Washington had too many backup options.
No.
Well, no. The one thing that
Weaver, Glenn, and Quinn now.
Yeah.
There are 3 guys left. Or
now
there might be one more I'm not thinking of.
Now, the one thing that I got them reading J.P. Finley, typing it again, is the fact that he keeps making mention that what if Adam Peters' guy isn't even a guy that's available right now? What if there's somebody in San Francisco that he sees? I don't know who that would be, but what if he sees somebody in San Francisco, there's a guy that he truly wants, he's targeting? I mean, granted, he made a push for Ben Johnson and Mike McDonald because they're obvious choices. Of course, you want to go after them.
Right.
But maybe he wasn't pressing the button too hard because ultimately he's like, well, if you say no, I have my guy right there that I might want right there. What if maybe that's the case? Well, we don't know that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, I mentioned it in our group chat. Leonard Hankerson, he's sitting right there as the wide receivers coach in San Francisco.
Yeah, right.
He'd be perfect. Nice little blast from the past there. Or maybe you get the Kubiak brothers. They're both there.
Listen, Jack Del Rio's sitting home with nothing to do.
Jack Del Rio, yeah. But the joke being San Francisco guys. Brian Greasy. Remember Brian Greasy?
Right.
He's their quarterbacks coach. The real answer, of course, if you're talking San Francisco, is Anthony Lynn is there. He's the assistant head coach. And where was he? Miami?
San Diego.
San Diego.
And
I actually thought he did a pretty good job out there. I think he kind of got
a lot of people seem to, yeah.
San Diego's got a unique ownership situation.
Yes.
They're it's not as much of a train wreck as Washington under Little Danny, but it was a train wreck a little bit there. And so I kind of don't blame Anthony Lynn completely for what happened out there. That having been said, he's still kind of a retread.
Well, he is.
But you're down to
pulled up his
retreads.
numbers: 33-31 career as a head coach, but one of those games was when he was with the Bills, and he was their interim head coach.
Well, I mean, my point is Washington's kind of down to retreads now. The hot coaches candidates are off the market.
Dan Quinn, similar 500-ish head coach.
Weaver wouldn't be that though.
No.
And Glenn as well.
Weaver and Glenn have never been a head coach yet. Right. They're both defensive guys. Weaver intrigues me a little because it's been pointed out quite a lot on Twitter that Steve wouldn't have seen. Weaver might be the defensive line coach, but at the same time, he is the running game coordinator for the Ravens. So that's kind of a unique, like he does both sides of the ball thing.
And in fact, on the Weaver part, that's one aspect of today that just, I just had to laugh because you get people come out there, okay, let's get a defensive line coach. Let's get a guy in here who's never been a coordinator, not ready for coach. I'm like thinking, oh, you know what? When Baltimore hired John Harbaugh as their head coach, he was a special teams coach for a couple years in Philadelphia. Everyone thought that was a bad hire because he was a special teams coach for a couple years. When McVay was hired, he was hired as 1 year removed as a tight ends coach.
Yep.
He was limited capacity as an OC for Washington, and people thought it was way too early for McVay. How did that work out for both of those teams?
Wait a minute.
Generally
speaking, it's probably not going to work out. There are exceptions to every rule.
You're right.
But because for every McVay, there's a slew of types like that aren't going to make it.
But see, my overarching point with that conversation and other conversations is that these people are out here acting like this is Vinny Cerrato 2.0. This is Vinny Cerrato running the team again. I'm like, dude. Well, it's like a week ago, you're sitting there all excited about getting one of the top young GMs in the up and coming GMs in the NFL. You're excited about it. You love it. Yes, the head coaching thing didn't go your way. You didn't get Ben Johnson. There are reasons for that. You didn't get Mike McDonald. There are reasons for that. I get all that. I understand all that. But the guy hasn't even been running this team for a month yet. At least give it a chance to see what his plan. And because you know what, there was also one other point that was brought up by Nikki Javala, I think it was, is that maybe these young coaches are looking at Washington and saying, you have a full roster rebuild. I got to get a young quarterback. These first couple of years might be dead years. These first couple of years, I may not be able to get this team where it needs to be. Next thing you know, I'm on a hot seat. Granted, that's not a great mentality, but they're probably looking at it like, well, I'd rather go either stay in Detroit where I have an offense or go to Seattle where there's something there for me already. There's many different reasons. But
coaches always look at situations. And don't forget, Washington still has a terrible reputation. And, the new owner, I mean, you still have to outgrow the total train wreck, reputation. So it doesn't surprise me.
No, you're right. I agree.
I just think that it seems like it's a bit of a Keystone Cops episode, a little bit. Because they chased these guys, they got rebuffed. Now it's like you're left with, looking around like nobody's left, and they didn't really have a backup plan when both option A and A1 went out.
Now, so just on the guys who weren't head coaches before they got the head coach, or OCs before they got that job, Andy Reid is also one, as was Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin went from DB coach and wide receivers coach to head coach.
I know, but I'm just saying.
It does happen.
Yeah,
I'm saying more for people who are panicking about it. Like, it can happen. I do prefer the traditional, like, you work your way up method.
Right.
I don't like guys who necessarily get red hot like that. To me, it's a bit of a flag. But I
just an experience thing for me. I think you want a person who is experienced in leading an entire organization, and that would be, you've been a coordinator, you're leading an entire side of the ball.
Right.
You're used to planning at that level, and now you're ready to graduate. Whereas a defensive line coach or whatever is not necessarily that. Maybe you can, but not necessarily.
Well, our buddy Rick Snyder he posted one of his videos, And one of the things he said that was interesting to me was that he said very few head coaches actually do have that leadership personality that you need. Like he obviously knows it from Gibbs. Like he's seen the Joe Gibbs mold, which is arguably the best of all time when it comes to leadership. But he kind of went through all the coaches we've had in the past, and none of them really had it. Maybe Mike Shanahan did a little, if you're thinking about him. Definitely not Jim Zorn. Jim Zorn, not a leader.
And see, and that's why on the premise of what you're talking about, Alex, that's why I'm surprised that I know Brian Flores had some issues in Miami, but that was primarily with the front office and how they ran their front office down there.
They were tanking under him, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But as far as with the players, he had a message that was very similar to what Tomlin spoke.
Yeah.
Flores is a guy that I actually really, really like, and I really was hoping that he would have gotten a call from Washington itself, because if he was number one option, he came in right away as over top of Ben Johnson, I might have been on an island, but I would have been thrilled with that because of his approach, and he has every leadership tangible that you want to have that from anything that's ever been spoken to from any place he's ever been. That's the kind of guy you need here, because he preaches accountability. He gets messages across to his players and everything. That was a front office thing down there in Miami. Why that didn't work out had nothing to do with the players. In fact, he even did well as a coach down there. But
yeah, no, look, I think he kind of got screwed over. Like there's plenty of guys who could be retreads and be good if they're given a better shot. This whole search does remind me, and some people, I'm not the first one to say this, it does remind me of the 2008 coaching search, though, in a lot of ways. And not just the, like, you're going for your third guy now. Our version of Jim Zorn might be the next head coach right now, but
Jim Zorn's available.
I don't know where Jim Zorn is. He's got to be.
I think he's at home. That's where I think he is.
I don't know. I don't.
Is he coaching one of the UFL
coaching
teams now?
A year ago?
Well, he was coaching somewhere in the UFL, so you're going to make me look it up.
No.
Wikipedia is always right.
The thing that I'm reminded of more, though, is how early in that year, Steve Spagnuolo just flat out rejected the Commanders because that was the guy Snyder wanted, if you remember. Dan Snyder and Vinny were desperately going to try and get Spagnuolo in here because he was the hotshot defensive coordinator at the time. He was the name, and he wouldn't even take an interview. And that's what the Ben Johnson thing reminds me a little of. Not quite the same, because this was, they'd done one interview already with him. But I just get that vibe all of a sudden.
So now, Jim Zorn was last the head coach of something called the Seattle Dragons in 2020.
Right.
And according to Wikipedia, that team was an XFL team that he was not retained after the league went kaput. And he's been home ever since.
Okay, so he hasn't done anything since 2020.
Not in football, at least.
Got it. I knew that because I went to a game where he was coaching the Seattle Dragons.
Did you wave at him and flash a Redskins jersey?
There was a lot of people shouting at Jim Zorn because it was a Defenders game, so it was all Redskins fans there making fun of him. Yeah.
It's deserved.
Yeah, it was a little deserved. I think he shook it off pretty well, but yeah, man, it's an interesting search. So, Steve, you're saying you want kind of more experienced guy at this point, someone who has some leadership background.
Well, yeah, because I don't necessarily think the team needs a retread either. And by that doesn't mean like if you've been a head coach, you're automatically out. What I mean is like a head coach who's failed, was or mediocre. I mean, if maybe like a guy like Jeff Lynne wouldn't be a bad idea. Dan Quinn went to a Super Bowl. Don't forget,
right?
And Atlanta's kind of a tough place to, they have a strange ownership situation a little bit there too. So, by retread, I was thinking like Raheem Morris is a retread. Sure. That's a retread. But I would like, to me, I don't think I've come to believe that schemes do not win NFL games. What wins NFL games to me is having a leadership team in place that knows what system you're going to run and finds the best coaches and players to do it, and then the coach is a leader. That's, I think, what wins NFL football games. And so that's what I would want. Like Josh Harris said that in his opening, or maybe it was Peters. I can't remember. In that press conference they had a couple weeks ago.
They said leadership was the most important thing. Yeah.
And I think they're right, because you're just not going to have like a scheme that wins a ton of games, not in today's NFL.
No, there are things. Occasionally, somebody comes up with something like the read option that takes the league by storm
for a while.
It'll have a 1, 2, 3 year impact, and then it just gets incorporated into what everyone does, and it's gone. Or not gone. It's just part of the fabric now.
So that's why I don't get too hot over any of these coaches, because I don't know really what kind of leaders any of them are necessarily. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'd have to see them, be around them, interview them to really
you have to know. I mean, in part, you have to be able to figure out not just do they have a scheme that works like you're talking about, though, and finding the player, but how they adjust what they want to do to their guys, which is the most important thing.
Can they lead people, and can they adjust? And Ben Johnson was a hot coach because the Lions were a hot team this year.
Right. And he did the adjusting part very well to Jared Goff, who first round number 1 pick at one point, but limited in some of his quarterback skills. Like he does not have every tool in the bag as a
did not live up to draft status.
No.
Yeah, and it goes to the point with Anthony Weaver, why I was intrigued with him for a couple reasons. One, because there were reports even last year when he had interviews like Miami, all the reports were is that he exuded that kind of leadership mentality and approach that he had. When he had his interviews. In fact, even some report this year that of all the candidates going around, he had one of the better interviews out of all the coaches out there. Mm-hmm. So when you take that premise and that idea, of course, I'm not in the room, I have no idea if that's all true or not. But you take that, plus he's from a winning organization and knows how to do it right in Baltimore. He's seen how things were put together. And he sees his head coach being a special teams guy his entire life, knew how to put together a proper coaching staff that fit the strengths of the players that he had. I mean, Lamar Jackson is a perfect example. He brought in Greg Roman because he had an offense that could fit his needs. That war as welcome. He brought in Todd Monken. Todd Monken had a system in there that did just that for what Lamar Jackson needed and what he had to do. It wasn't just some hot name out there he pulled in. So he's seen all that. He's been around that. He's in an organization that's seen how it's constructed. That's what intrigues me the most about Anthony Weaver. And I don't care about his time at Houston when he was in 2020, I think he was a defensive coordinator for the Texans when they were like 4-12. I couldn't care less about that. That's irrelevant to me because he's here to be a coach and a leader, and he needs to bring in the guys and coordinators to do what they need to do. That's why I'm the most intrigued with what's left.
I think they need to bring in the Anthony Weaver from the movie Draft Day to run the team. He'd be good.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be a good one, actually. I like that callback right there. That'd be
nice.
Is
that the name of the guy in Draft Day?
It was Anthony Weaver. It was Coach Weaver. I can't remember if the dad who was dead when the movie opened was Anthony or if it was Kevin Costner's character, but it was one of them was Anthony.
I think it was his dad, I do believe.
Maybe. You're going to make me look this up too.
I mean, that 2020 Texans season, that's also when things started falling apart with Deshaun Watson in his public life.
Right.
So, kind of.
Oh, I'm wrong. It was Sonny Weaver, not Anthony.
Oh, Sonny Weaver.
Okay. Forget I made that whole thing.
Well, no, it's all good. It still works anyway. Who cares? It still works anyway. I like it.
Weaver
I love it.
Yes, Sonny Weaver would be good. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Who played that?
I've heard that Anthony Weaver has a very sunny disposition, so we're good.
It was Dennis Leary who was the coach. Yeah.
Also played a Cowboys offensive coordinator who somehow just won a Super Bowl, which was
because he had the ring. Remember?
Yeah.
So look, here's the thing. I think fans need to calm down a little bit. You said one of you said, I think it was Dave. You said it. I mean, at the beginning, Relax.
Right.
Just
I
because they
understand
didn't.
why people are upset, but we got to
Yeah,
relax.
I mean, it looks like they were left holding the bag. I mean, it does. We said that. I'm not going to backtrack on that, but it ain't the end of the world, kids. They
Mhm.
may find a great coach, and it's more than just the latest hot coach. We've said it before repeatedly. It's a whole system that establishes. It's a whole organization at the top that establishes a long-term winning team. And just because they didn't get Ben Johnson and what's his name, Mike McDonald,
Right.
that's not limiting in and of itself. So yeah, give it a chance. You've seen Adam Peters for like 3 weeks. That's
Right.
it. Give him a chance. Like in my one Twitter adventure, I saw today that people were concerned that Washington's non-existent head coach is not at the Senior Bowl. How can you possibly go to the Senior? What do you expect them to do? Skip the Senior Bowl because they don't have a coach? And who
Right.
do you think scouts these players anyway? The coach certainly goes, but it's the scouting staff. So just relax. It will be fine. It'll be an improvement from what this franchise had, no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it goes to the point that you mentioned earlier. Anyway, this franchise has been a train wreck for over 2 decades. Yeah, there's still a black cloud that has to be completely dissipated yet, and that's going to take time. And Josh Harris and Adam Peters are probably like, you know what? These next 2 years, we need to put together this organization, build this roster, and we need to get ourselves to a point where we can bring in that next big name for a coach. And that's the time when we'll get the guy that we need, unless you bring a guy in today, surprises everyone, and he winds up being that guy.
Listen, the stench from diarrhea in the bathroom takes a while to go away, okay?
Yes, it does.
No matter
Yes, it
how
does.
much of that air spray stuff you spray, it takes a while to dissipate. And that's the same here. Washington's been a train wreck. It doesn't just flip overnight. When it's been as bad as it is, it's just going to take a while.
Yeah. Now, I assume that by probably not Thursday when people are mostly listening to this, but by next week, they'll probably have made a decision.
Probably, yeah.
We're now getting late in the game here. Do you guys want to place bets on who it'll be, or just give your guess? It's a shot in the dark for all of us. I know.
It really is a shot in the dark at this point. I'm going to go with Quinn. Dan Quinn makes sense. Yeah.
If they have a name by next week, I think it's going to be Anthony Weaver. If they don't have a name by next week, I like the name you mentioned up earlier, Alex, or Lynn. Maybe it's someone like that they're waiting for.
That's kind of a dark horse candidate a little bit.
Yeah.
I haven't seen
I like
Anthony
that
Lynn talk.
line of thought that maybe they just say, all right, we'll wait for these guys. And I don't know if there's anyone on the Chiefs staff who'd be worth. I haven't looked. But yeah, I'll just go Weaver.
Sonny or Anthony?
Sonny Weaver. we're gonna need some sensors on the sidelines because you know how Dennis gets.
No, that wasn't Dennis.
No,
Sonny
right.
Weaver
Sorry, you know how Sonny gets.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Sonny somehow more vulgar than Dennis. So we'll see. I'm
No. Sonny Weaver was Kevin Costner's dad, who was the coach. That's who Sonny Weaver was in the movie. Dennis Leary's character was not Sonny Weaver, and then Kevin Costner was Sonny Weaver Jr.
Oh,
they were both Sonny Weaver.
Gotcha.
So I'm talking about bringing a corpse on the field, basically.
Okay, or Kevin Costner. I don't care.
Or Kevin Costner.
Yeah, at least we'd have a decent looking head coach. He's still a good looking guy.
His paramour there will be. She was, attractive. She'd be fun to look at.
Yeah. And also progressive, getting a female general manager in there.
There you go. Yeah.
So how about another dark horse name? I saw someone mention Clint Kubiak, which is Kubiak's son.
Yeah.
He's a passing game coordinator for San Francisco. I'm not talking as a head coach, but I'm talking about as a coordinator.
Oh, hell, I don't know. I'm not getting into that, Dave.
Yeah.
I mean, throw it out there now. I'll get my bones out there now. So
maybe they're waiting for Matt Nagy on the Chiefs staff to, be able to interview.
No, please.
I mean, maybe they are waiting on. Maybe the thought process now we missed out on everybody else. We might as well just wait to, and see if there's any candidates on either the 49ers or the Chiefs.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with this coaching hire coming down the pipe. But maybe we should talk about the playoffs because we just finished the championship games, and that kind of was the catalyst of a lot of this stuff because I think, the two big names that everyone thought we would hire they both lost, and that's why the hires happened.
Right.
So we had the two games, obviously, 49ers versus the Lions, and then we had the whole Kansas City Ravens game, which I guess was really the first game. I was kind of disappointed. Usually the playoff games to me or the championship rounds a lot more fun to watch. Both these games did not interest me nearly as much as they have in the past for some reason. And I don't know why.
I mean, I was expecting the Chiefs-Ravens game to be a classic. And instead, the game keyed on ridiculous mistakes.
Yep.
That, like Zay Flowers, I texted a friend of mine when Zay Flowers dropped that ball
in the end zone. Yeah.
I texted him and said, Zay Flowers just ended your team season.
Yep.
That's what happened. And Lamar threw an interception in the end zone, crashed and burned again. I like the guy, but he's failed too many times in the playoffs.
And the worst part is that right in his line of sight, Beckham was breaking wide open. Yep. Right across the middle. I mean, that was a minimum 1st and goal right there.
That's exactly right. And so the Ravens have nobody but to blame but themselves. And of course they need to ready for this, shake it off. Because the Chiefs, the Chiefs are. You didn't even get the pun.
I got it.
It's a terrible pun. And let me tell you
something.
It's
not really even a pun.
Let me tell you something. I didn't have an opinion one way or the other about Taylor Swift particularly. I hate the bitch now. I can't take another Taylor Swift headline. I cannot. So I'm rooting for the 49ers to win the Super Bowl just to make Taylor Swift miserable. That's the only rooting interest I have.
Here's my thing about the whole non-Taylor Swift, non-story thing. There's way more headlines complaining about Taylor Swift than there is actual coverage of Taylor Swift.
Well, there's every crazy rumor imaginable about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce now.
Right.
It's even gotten into politics, which is even more absurd.
I mean, I honestly don't care about their relationship. Let them get
married.
I don't
either, but I'm sick and tired of seeing it. It's
as
simple as that. I don't care who she dates. I mean, whatever. I don't care. I think the music is bland and boring, whatever. But I'm sick and tired of seeing it. So
modern
I got
pop music, bland and boring. I'm shocked.
I know, really.
Well, when it comes to Taylor Swift, first of all, the Constant Commerce tour and everything, it's the same thing as Jerry Jones in Dallas. Why? Stop. Mm-hmm. Enough. We don't need all of that. But there was one cut. It was a primetime game. It was actually after a ridiculous call by the ref. It was absolutely absurd, and it killed the Chiefs on a drive. And when he panned to when he panned up over there, I saw just the pure football emotion and rage from Taylor Swift as she dropped the F-bomb, going like this with her hands out, just screaming.
Right.
And it wasn't anything against Travis Kelce, it was just against the Chiefs. I mean, she actually looked like a fan right there. And I'm like, maybe she's actually becoming more engrossed with the game than people might actually think.
I don't care.
I don't know. Maybe not. But either way, all I know is it's just the fact that how people are going nuts with Taylor Swift, the constant attention. People don't want to see Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl again. They don't want to see Patrick Mahomes win the Super Bowl again. So that's why I am rooting for the Kansas City Chiefs to win the whole thing. Because for one, I love Patrick Mahomes. He's my favorite quarterback in the league. But
Dave is pulling a Steven, becoming the contrarian here.
Oh, yes. I admire the contrarian. For me, it's I just can't take another Taylor Swift headline.
Yeah,
I just cannot. So.
Here's my thing. I got more annoyed by Jessica Simpson back in the day when she and Tony Romo were dating.
I didn't know she even dated Tony Romo. I didn't even remember that.
Right there.
Yeah. She and Tony Romo dated probably his second or third year as a Cowboy star quarterback.
Shows you that how much attention I pay to TMZ.
Yeah. Well, again, I didn't really care, but it was the same. It was the exact same formula. Every shot, let's pan up to Jessica Simpson. Although I will say this, Jessica Simpson wore a lot skimpier outfits. So Taylor Swift, get on the ball there.
Yeah,
You know.
right.
She's not that type though.
No, she's not.
Jessica Simpson was also a total mess too.
Was.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, or is, yeah, maybe, but certainly
Maybe,
was. Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
about now, but she was a mess.
Yeah, she was one of those actresses who was an actress not for her talent.
We all know what assets they liked about Jessica
Oh,
Simpson.
Yes, we do. And all right. It was a good way to make a living, I'm sure.
Okay. Anyway, so that's my Taylor Swift rant. But so the game, look, I think the Chiefs have continued to play much better than they did during the regular season. They've turned it on at the right time. I wondered if the last game last weekend was a fluke. It wasn't. They played the Ravens on the road again. So the Chiefs are a force. I hate to say it, but the Chiefs are really a force to be reckoned with because they look like they put it all together in the right time, which is what outstanding teams can do. They can kind of sleepwalk, through some of the season, but when it matters, they have been there, and their offenses look sharper. Patrick Mahomes has looked average by his standards at times this season. He has not looked average during the playoffs at all. He's looked great during the playoffs. And their stars have come through.
Well, he's sitting with an air of confidence right now because now he has a receiver that's not going to drop the ball in Rashee Rice. And he's been phenomenal for the last 6 weeks of the season. And he's been great in the playoffs. And I think he realized how he needs to play with Marquez Valdez-Scantling. If you give him an easy throw just to catch, he's dropping it 9 times out of 10. So what does he do? He throws it over his back shoulder when he wasn't expected. So he's got twisted body, contort himself. He makes a beautiful catch. That's the way that MVS can catch a ball.
That was, yeah.
But I mean, all kidding aside, though, it's just, it's that defense is already a top 5 unit. Yeah. The receivers have now dug in, and he has confidence throwing to his receivers now, which is opening Travis Kelce back up again. And which is a very dangerous combination, we all know. And you're right, Steve. They are hitting on all cylinders at the right time, and their experience in the playoffs is paying off right now, too, at the same time, because they've been there. So, yeah, they're going to be very dangerous out for San Francisco. Very, very dangerous team.
Yeah, I mean, depending on what happens in the championship game, I think people will, and they often do, overlook the conference games, the conference championships. That defense played a heck of a game last week. They really did.
Yes. Yep.
I mean, the Ravens were one of the best offenses in the league. Some people would argue they were probably the best overall team in the league, and they just shut them down. Completely there.
And Lamar's stats weren't terrible either. 20 for 37, not a great completion percentage, but not terrible. 272 yards. One TD, but he had the big interception. Only 54 yards running, which most quarterbacks that'd be good. But for him, I thought the Ravens' game plan was weird.
Yeah, they didn't run the ball at all.
Yeah, they're one of the best running, maybe the best running team in the league, and they're not. Why are you not running the ball? I didn't understand that. I mean, 16 rushes, 37 pass attempts. I don't understand that. Zay Flowers had a great game, except for the one play. 115 yards receiving, but ended the game with his drop in the end zone. So, they killed themselves, but I thought the Ravens' game plan was weird. I don't know who their offensive coordinator is.
Todd Monken.
Okay. Yeah. Bad job by Todd Monken, I think.
Yeah.
So that's my take on the Ravens.
Yeah. I still think that offense, they've never quite figured out how to build a complete offense around Lamar Jackson. It feels like.
Well, and that's the thing. This year, like what Steve was talking about, this year they did a fantastic job. They ran the ball, and they were able to counter defenses trying to isolate Lamar Jackson, and he wasn't terrible in the pocket this year. It was the fact that he played within the system, and he took what the defenses gave him. While he had the run game, it was a catalyst. But it was like that championship game. What was like a 67 clip for passing on that, right? It was like right around there. That's just insane.
It was Oops. 16 rushes compared to 37 pass attempts, 4 sacks. So that's 41 total dropbacks compared to 16 rushes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's crazy for a team like the Ravens. They haven't played like that all year. Terrible game plan. Like
Right.
stick to, stick to what got you there.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But you don't change, because they're not. Lamar works best when he can rely on his legs to be a threat on the ground, which opens up the passing lanes.
Yeah.
And
Not to
when he can,
mention play action and booting off that
that's
kind of stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was about to say. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean on the run, play action. So I yeah. So bad job all around. You want to move on to the next game?
Yeah, let's move on to the next game. It looked like the Lions had this thing locked up. It really did. They came out of that first half with a very impressive lead. What was it, 24-7 at that point? I think it was 24-7.
Let me pull it up here.
Yeah, I think they had a 17-point lead.
Yeah, I think they kicked the field goal at the end of the first half. I
Yeah.
think yes.
Yeah, they were executing on all
It was
cylinders.
24-7 at the end of the first half.
Yeah, and then I don't know what you would call it, just great adjustments by the 49ers. But they kicked it into gear, and they just
I think it
piled
was
up.
a case of experience in the 49ers versus a team like the Lions who's very inexperienced in games like this, and they just couldn't get. I don't think that'll happen to them next year if they get back there.
Right.
They just didn't have the mentality when you're facing a championship team in a serious situation. The 49ers, who are experienced and have been there, turned it on, and the 49ers, I think, just kind of lost themselves a little bit at halftime.
Well, it also didn't help that you had Josh Reynolds with a drive killer in the second half with that drop,
Yes.
forced him to punt. And then you had Jamar Gibbs that broke wide open, and Goff missed him in the end zone. I
Well,
mean, there was
also-
nobody around for like 5 yards. That was a touchdown right there.
Well, also,
So, I mean, there were a lot of mental mistakes too as well.
Dan Campbell killed them.
Mm.
Dan Campbell had them run. It seemed like go for it on like every fourth down. He gave up a field goal in a game that ended up having a 3-point margin to try to get a first down and failed. And he ran. I get it. He's Mr. Kenny Rogers, know when to hold him, know when to fold him thing, and take risk and all that. But you gotta get the field goal in that situation.
Yeah, he loves that whole analytics say you should always go for the fourth in that situation.
But he was totally wrong, and it cost him the game. It cost him a tie. Statistically, it cost him a tie.
Yeah. And who knows what else happens after
Right.
that.
You don't know. Yeah. Right. So I think Dan Campbell personally was partly at fault for this. I mean, I don't know if he took responsibility in the post game or what he did. Okay.
He did, but he didn't regret it. And the one thing that it goes to your point, with what you said about the Ravens, stick with what got you there. Well, what got the Lions there was him being risky like that all year. So he wasn't going to get off that horse. It's what he would have done in week 5, what he would have done in week 10, or even week 17. He did it in the championship game. Do I agree with it? No, I agree. He should have taken the points. But who am I to argue with someone who's just stuck to his game plan and what he did all year long? It just, unfortunately, it was the NFC Championship game where it backfired on him instead of like week 10.
Yeah, so that's part of it, but I do go back to I just think the players weren't ready for the situation. They went into halftime, oh my God, we're going to the Super Bowl. It's over. Yeah. And then they forgot that they were facing an experienced championship team.
No, I agree. I agree with that 100%. Experience is huge.
Because they just looked like they were all kind of overwhelmed, because San Francisco came out on fire out of the first half, and it was like, what happened? And they were totally discombobulated. And then you throw in some stupid plays by Campbell, and it's just, there you go, it's over.
Yeah, I mean, a traditionalist would probably, you come out with that kind of lead, you're going to try and play clock control right away. But in the playoffs these days, especially, you can't let up on the gas until nearly the end of the game if you've got a good lead. We all remember what happened to Atlanta all those years ago in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I was just going to mention that. Yep.
You never can let up in the playoffs. You just got to keep going for, drive after drive after drive, put up as many points as you can. That That was probably the better of the two games, just because you did have that comeback and it was high scoring.
Oh,
but,
just from a pure watching the game standpoint, yeah, that was the
Yeah.
better game.
yeah.
And now I'm sorry, but I can no longer agree with people saying that Brock Purdy is only purely a system quarterback. He might very well be. I get that part, but you cannot take away what he did in that second half either. He helped bring that team back with his legs, his arm, the throws he was making. I mean, they had like 5 consecutive scoring drives, and he had at least multiple drives where it was like third and long, and he kept the drives going. I'm sorry, but Brock Purdy deserves all the accolades you want to give guys like Christian McCaffrey and all of them on that team, like Deebo Samuels and everything. He is just as warranted of all the praise that you give those other guys.
He did
Period.
great. He did
Yes.
great. Yeah, I agree with you. You can't just call him, he's a system quarterback and, game manager. First of all, I hate those descriptions. What does that mean?
Right.
But Brock Purdy, yeah, he was Mr. Irrelevant, but he's been great. And yeah, he's in a great system, or he's in a great situation, rather, for sure.
Yeah.
You put him in Washington, he wouldn't have had a career. They would have ruined him. But
Right.
whatever, it doesn't matter. He's doing it. He looks like an elite quarterback, and you got to hand it to him. I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
He might be a system guy still, but you know what?
Every quarterback, almost every quarterback
is. That's what I was going to say. Like Tom Brady was a system quarterback up until probably.
There's like a hand. You could name the quarterbacks who could have won in anywhere. You could name on like one hand.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Who were that good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have ever called him a game manager though. Purdy. To me, like you were saying, I don't know what it means. To me, it's actually pretty easy to say what a game manager is. It's low turnover, not a lot of yards. But
dink and dunk. Yeah.
Dink and dunks, gets you some
him.
first
That's not Purdy.
downs. Yeah, that's not what he does though.
No.
Brock Purdy.
True.
I mean, he did have a low turnover percentage, I think, overall, but generally speaking, yeah.
Okay, so on another note,
Mm-hmm.
we'll talk about the Super Bowl, the actual game next week. But I made a bet in the office today, so I want to see if you guys think I'm going to win this or not.
All right.
Someone in my office says Taylor Swift's going to perform at halftime, and I said no, she's not. Now Usher is the scheduled halftime performer, and no doubt, because nobody needs to see Usher for 15 minutes, he will have multiple guests and stuff there.
That's the tradition, right? You have
so
some
my
cameos.
bet with this person was lunch that I said Taylor Swift will not perform at halftime. She said the person I bet, she said that she will. So will I win or lose lunch?
You will win lunch.
That's what I think. I was very confident.
Because right now, someone like Taylor Swift doesn't just walk out into a stage and get nothing in return. And you figure all the money, everything in terms of preparation stuff's already been allocated to Usher and everyone else. And it's not like Taylor Swift is going in front of her. Now, if you brought in all of her diehard fans, and like my daughter being one of them, and they just overran that stadium, I have no doubt in my mind to think that Taylor Swift's going to go out there. Hey, let me at least do 1 or 2 songs for my fans that are here, because I've heard about her performances. My daughter told me. I mean, she barely takes breaks. She's a hard worker, and she's extremely receptive to all her fans. But this is not the case. There's a lot of corporate money sitting in that stadium right now. She's not going to give a rat's ass about anything. But she's going to keep herself in that box and just enjoy the halftime show and move on.
There you go.
They will show her multiple times at the halftime show.
Yes.
That
wasn't the bet though. The bet is she's going to be on stage with Usher.
No, she won't be on stage because to your point, Dave, the choreography's already been done. Unless she's been secretly doing the choreography this whole time.
Yeah, there's a lot of lip syncing they need to coordinate for the halftime shows.
Hey,
right?
Have you ever seen when lip syncing goes wrong, Steve? I have.
Oh, I have. Yes, I have.
Oh, it's brutal. Yeah.
Yeah. Mine involved Miss America. It was fun.
And also, that's another thing too. That's the one thing Taylor Swift refuses to do. She will not lip sync in any performance she ever does. And that's going to be the cornerstone of that halftime show. Yeah. That's another reason why she won't do it either.
Okay. So I'm going to win the bet.
Yes, you'll win the bet.
I would be willing to bet she's probably a favorite to be in the next Super Bowl halftime show.
No. No. They've already negotiated there. So, but one thing that's on another note, Dave, you had a rant, and I can't remember what the rant was supposed to be. I didn't want to pass up your rant. I liked the topic, but I can't remember what it was. What was your rant?
It was about the fan base and how they overreact to this whole situation with the coaching staff and everything. I made, like, for instance, one of my posts I made a very simple comment on a post saying, hey, allow Peters to do his job. Just relax. Why are we rushing to the world is ending, the sky is falling type of mentality? And I get comments like, well, I'm a paying customer. I have the right to sit here and have this complaint. And, when I made a comment about Martin, well, maybe he kept Martin Mayhew because he had Mayhew with him in San Francisco, and I think they did a pretty good job with that roster out there. And then right away, it's like, oh, they drafted Trey Lance. They did this. Oh, what are you talking about? He hasn't done anything. He's failed at this since he's been a GM here. I'm like, good Lord. It's like we had, like I said earlier, we have Vinny Serrato 2.0 here, all right. It's like, we're doomed. We're doomed for the next 10, 15 years, I guess. This fan base is just so destroyed mentally. And I don't blame the majority of them because of what we had to deal with. But sometimes you just got to just bite the bullet, take a step back, and relax. I know patience is one thing that I even hate hearing about this team for the last 20-plus years. I didn't want to hear it either. But we have a new owner, an actual legitimate general manager. Yeah, he's had some misses. Maybe it was poor preparation, poor planning, no real true backup plan. Or maybe he does have a backup plan, and maybe that backup plan is sitting in San Francisco right now, or maybe it's a name we haven't heard of, like a Brian Flores or something like that. And maybe these guys that he interviewed weren't true leaders. I think Mike McDonald would have been, which is when I heard he tried calling them back to see if he was still interested in coming anyway. But that's beside the point. They're gone. Just let it play out. See what happens. This roster is not going to overturn in 1 year. We have like you said earlier, Steve, we have a black cloud on this franchise. It's going to last for at least a few more years. I'm sorry, but that's the reputation that Washington has, thanks to the tiny tyrant that's now gone. I'm sorry. That's what we have to deal with. Be patient. Just relax.
You really like my down. Tiny tyrant label.
Oh, I use it all the time. I might make a T-shirt saying it eventually one day.
I don't know about that. We don't want to get a defamation claim going here.
No, it'd be for me to wear like a work around here.
Okay, very good. So, but I didn't want to not let you get your rant out. So that was, I didn't mean to go backwards, but it was a good rant.
Don't wear it in the office, Dave, just because you might have a boss take it the wrong way.
I'm short. It doesn't matter. If that boss takes it the wrong way, it's like, dude, you're 5'0", I'm 5'0". Be quiet.
Yeah, but you're calling him a tyrant. You're not a tyrant.
That's true.
Or maybe it's a self-referencing thing.
Put a caricature of Snyder on the T-shirt. See, that's what we do. Maybe Alex. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we're already in enough trouble with the team. I was gonna say maybe we could just put a T-shirt up and sell a T-shirt with the tiny tyrant on it, but that's kind of going backwards, though. I don't like that.
No. We got to think forward, and we got to find something fun to make fun of.
It would have been better by doing that while he was still in office.
Right. Well, you mentioned it. We didn't really talk about it though. Martin Mayhew's apparently staying on. That's kind of a surprise.
Well, for now, I mean, again, you guys said it. I think it was Dave. You said you don't fire scouts before the draft.
No, they're saying he's gonna be here for a while.
He'll probably be there through the draft. That's how most transitions work anyway. Because I think you talked about this before last year, Steve, didn't you?
Yeah.
Usually on most transitions.
About that, but the reporting is that it sounds like he's going to be here beyond that, like for the next few years, that Peters wants to keep him around.
I mean, he had a good reputation, as a talent, evaluator. So who knows?
I mean, what people have to keep in mind with Martin Mayhew, he wanted to offer a third-round pick to get up so we can jump the pace so you can get Emmanuel Forbes. I get all that, but understand who drove that bus and who engineered that. Martin Mayhew was only following what he was told to do.
Sure.
With Ron Rivera was the one that had the mentality at all costs, I want Emmanuel Forbes. What's he going to do? Tell his boss, no, we're not doing that. That's not how that works, you know? I mean,
He
but
can
when he
make
was
his opinion known, but at the end of the day,
Sure.
Rivera was in charge.
Absolutely. So you can't really hold that entirely against him either. So
I'm going to hold it entirely against him.
Alex is going to be petty like that.
Yeah.
There we go.
You know, the one thing that popped in my mind today, you know, when I heard that about Mayhew, though, that he's going to be here for a while, I'm a bit concerned that this is already becoming too defense heavy because Peters is a defensive guy. He played defensive end. Mayhew, obviously, cornerback. Was he a safety? But defensive. And now it looks like a defensive head coach again. Like, I worry about that being too lopsided towards all.
Bill Belichick was a defensive coach.
Right, but he had Tom Brady already. Like when
I don't think you need to worry about it, you know, because I think there'll be an offensive coordinator, whoever it is there, who will run the offense. And again, it comes back to, I think you want the right players and you want to be able to use them properly and motivate them to succeed. Mm-hmm. And I think that can be done. That it takes an organization to do it. They have the GM in place. We'll see about the coach. But I wouldn't worry too much about offensive defense, blah, blah, blah. I mean, they'll put together an offensive.
I'm going to wait and not really worry about it until like 2 years down the road if they don't draft a single offensive lineman for 2 years. You know? Like,
well, yeah. Like, I mean, I call that pulling a Rivera.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Then I'll panic more. But I'd like to see some offensive guys brought in just to.
Well, they need to draft number one, they need to draft a quarterback.
Yeah, of course.
Forget everything else. They need to draft a quarterback. Period. Dot the end. Quarterback. Just forget everything else. It's not going to be Sam Howell's team. They need to draft whoever it is.
Yeah.
That needs to be draft pick number one of the new era.
That is priority one. They need linemen. They need a tight end. There are a lot of
linebacker.
Yeah. They need a. I mean, I published those. We're going to get to a roster review. We missed it today again, but I mean, if you really look at the corner group, they kind of need corners.
Yep.
You know, sad to say, but they need corners. So there's a lot of needs on this team.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, they won't be able to address it all in a year.
Maybe we'll talk about the roster some next show because honestly, there's not going to be anything to talk about other than whoever the coach is, hopefully.
Right.
Unless they still don't have a coach.
We always think there'll be nothing, and there always is.
Yeah. Could you imagine if they don't have a coach going into Super Bowl weekend somehow?
Yeah.
And
then that means there's somebody in San Francisco they won.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Andy Reid retires. The Chiefs replace their coach before the Washington Redskins do.
I think the Washington fan base would, you know, poop their pants at that point, I think.
Yeah. Yes, they would. They would have a meltdown.
Yes.
Of all meltdowns. Yeah. I kind of now want it. You know me, sometimes I just like
I'm
chaos.
pro meltdown. They're more fun, you know, like hashtag content, you know.
Yep.
Well, I think that Leonard Hankerson would do it.
Yeah.
Leonard,
be that
maybe Leonard Hankerson needs to be the head coach.
Yeah. Well, is it too late to go back to Detroit and get Mark Brunell since he's their QB coach?
It's never too late.
Yeah.
For Mark Brunell.
He still needs money, right? Because didn't he lose all his money?
He did. Yeah, he got suckered in a scam.
Yeah, fake church. If I remember,
I don't know. I don't remember.
I think
what
it was that. Yeah. All right, guys. We're just gonna sit here and reminisce ex-Redskins to be the next head coach. That's gonna be what we'll do for the next half hour. You all have a good week.
Clinton Portis
would be
Chris
fun.
Cooley.
All right, guys. You all take care.
Fellas. Take it easy.
Bye.
That is